I did not know my life would change in just 1 second. 1 second, that was all it took for everything I believed in, everything I taught my daughter, everything I stood for as a mother and a grandmother to break right in front of me. The sound of the slap was so loud that even the birds outside our window went silent. My face turned to the side, my cheek burning like fire. I did not fall, but my knees shook. For a moment, I tasted something bitter in my mouth, maybe fear, maybe shock, maybe both. I heard my daughter scream, "Mom, please stop. Please don't make him angry." But I did not say a word. I only looked at my son-in-law, Daniel. His chest was rising and falling fast, like someone ready to fight again. His eyes were wild, his hands still shaking. And my daughter, my sweet Margaret, held his arm, begging him, crying as she tried to pull him back. Her tears dropped on the floor, one after the other, like she was apologizing for every choice she ever made. All because I refused to give them my blessing. The blessing they thought they deserved. The blessing I knew they were not ready for. The blessing that could destroy my daughter's future. Daniel pointed at me with his finger, his voice shaking with anger. "If you don't give us your blessing today, you will regret it. I swear you will regret it." I held my cheek, still burning from his hand, and I whispered only one sentence. "You just proved why I cannot bless this marriage." And before I could move, before anyone else could speak, something happened in that room that none of us expected. And that was the moment everything changed. Now let me take you back to the beginning, to the peaceful days before this storm, to how it all started, to the small signs I ignored, and the warnings I did not see. Because this story did not start with a slap. It started long before that. It started on a bright Sunday morning 2 years earlier. I remember that day because the sun was soft, the birds were singing gently, and the air felt peaceful, the kind of morning that makes you feel like trouble is very far away. I was in my small garden behind the house, watering the tomatoes, when Margaret came to me with a smile so wide that I could almost see her heart glowing. "Mom," she whispered, "there's someone I want you to meet." Her eyes were full of excitement. That kind of excitement young people have when they fall in love too fast. "Who is he?" I asked, wiping my hands on my apron. "A good man," she said. "His name is Daniel, and Mom, I think he is the one." Those words, the one, I had heard them before from many young girls, including Margaret in the past, but I did not want to spoil her happiness, so I smiled. "Bring him," I said. And she did. Daniel came to my house that same evening. He was tall, handsome, and polite, too polite. The kind of polite that feels like someone is acting on stage. He greeted me warmly. He said all the right words. He even brought gifts, bread, juice, and a flower for my table. But something in my heart did not settle well. I have lived many years. I have raised children. I have seen people pretend. And there was something about Daniel's eyes, kind eyes on the outside, but cold underneath, that made me feel uneasy. Still, I said nothing. For the next months, they grew closer. They laughed a lot. They took pictures together. He bought her gifts, promised her things, and made her feel like she was living in a movie. Margaret believed everything. She believed him more than she believed herself. One day, she came running into my room and said, "Mom, Daniel wants to marry me. He said he cannot live without me. He wants your blessing." I looked at her for a long time before I spoke. "My daughter," I said softly, "what do you really know about this man?" She laughed. "Mom, I know him. I know his heart." "No," I said. "You know what he shows you, but you do not know the parts he hides." That made her angry. She walked out of the room and slammed the door. That was the first time she ever walked away from me like that. A small crack in our relationship began that day. But the real warnings came after. Little things at first. Very little. Like the day she came home with tears in her eyes because Daniel shouted at her for talking to an old male friend. Or the day he refused to let her go to a family event with me because he didn't want people looking at her. Or the day he searched her phone without asking and said he had the right. Every time she told me these things, my heart squeezed tight. "Margaret," I would say, "pay attention. A man who controls you today will hurt you tomorrow." But she always said the same thing. "Mom, you don't understand him. He just loves me too much." Love does not lock you up. Love does not isolate you. Love does not own you. Love does not shout at you. Love does not break you. I saw what she did not see. But I stayed calm and waited, hoping she would open her eyes on her own. Then came the day everything moved too fast. The day Daniel came to my house, kneeled in front of me, and asked for my blessing. I looked at him, I looked at my daughter, I looked at the life she was about to enter, and I said gently but clearly, "No." The room went cold. Margaret gasped. Daniel's jaw tightened. He stood up without smiling anymore. And that was the beginning of the storm. For the next weeks, he became colder and angrier. He blamed me for every fight he had with my daughter. He said I was destroying their future. He even threatened to move her far away from me. And one evening, he came again, this time with fire in his eyes, this time ready to fight, this time not caring about respect. That was the evening he raised his hand. That was the evening my daughter screamed. That was the evening my cheek burned. And that was the evening something far worse happened right after the slap. Something I am not sure I was ready for. Because as my cheek stung and the room shook with fear, Daniel suddenly reached into his pocket and pulled out something that made my heart jump out of my chest. Daniel's hand went into his pocket so fast that for a moment I thought he was reaching for something dangerous, something no mother should ever see in the hands of a man who just lifted his hand against her. My heart thumped so loudly I could hear it in my ears. My daughter's breath stopped. The whole room froze like time was holding its own breath. But what he pulled out was not a weapon. It was a key. A small silver key with a red tag tied to it. He held it up in the air like it was proof of power, proof of control, proof that my daughter was already deeper in trouble than I had realized. He shook the key in front of me and said, "This is the key to our new apartment. We already paid for it. She already agreed to move in with me, so your blessing doesn't even matter." My daughter looked at the key with fear, not joy. That was the first time she wasn't smiling when he talked about their future. That alone broke my heart more than the slap. Daniel turned to face her, his voice sharp like a blade. "Tell your mother. Tell her you're leaving this house tonight. Tell her you belong to me now." My daughter trembled. I could see her fingers shaking. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She looked like a child who didn't know how she got lost. And in that moment, I understood something important. She was scared of him. Not in love. Scared. Daniel grew angrier when she didn't speak immediately. He grabbed her wrist so hard she cried out. "Tell her," he shouted. That was when I snapped out of my shock. I took one step forward and said, "Let go of my daughter." But Daniel pointed the key at me like it was a weapon. "You can't stop this. She belongs with me, and if you try to take her away, you will see a side of me you won't forget." My daughter whispered, "Daniel, please stop." But he didn't stop. His voice rose higher and higher until he was yelling so loudly the neighbors could probably hear him. He threw the key on the floor. It slid across the room and hit the leg of my table. "You think you can control everything," he shouted. "You think you know what's best. Let me tell you something, your blessing doesn't change anything. I already own her heart. She already said yes." I looked at my daughter, and she lowered her head in shame, not because she agreed to the marriage, but because she had said yes only out of fear of losing him. Not love, fear. I knew that look. I wore that same look when I was younger. When I married a man, I didn't truly know. And I promised myself my daughter would never suffer like I did. So I said the one thing Daniel did not expect. "You cannot have my blessing, and you will never have it." Daniel's face went red with rage. He marched toward me, chest forward, shoulders tight. My daughter screamed, "Daniel, no." He lifted his hand again, not to slap this time, but to push me. Hard. I stumbled backward and hit the edge of the table. Pain shot through my back. My daughter rushed to me, crying harder now. She held my shoulders and whispered, "Mom, please forgive him. Please don't make him angry. He's just upset. He didn't mean it. Didn't mean it. He had slapped me, grabbed her, yelled at her, and pushed me. How many didn't mean it moments would come next? Daniel stood at the center of the room, breathing heavily, his chest rising like he was preparing for war. Then he said something so shocking that even Margaret gasped. Margaret, pack your things. If your mother won't bless us, then she won't be part of our life. We are leaving this house now. Her eyes widened. Now, Daniel, please, this is my mother's house. And I am your future husband, he yelled. You listen to me. Her lips trembled, but she didn't move. He pointed at her room. Pack your things. Silence. My daughter did not move. She did not speak. She simply kept her arms around me like she suddenly remembered. She had a mother who loved her before she had a man who controlled her. Daniel stepped closer to her, towering over both of us. If you don't come with me, he said slowly, then we are done. My daughter's breath caught. Her heart broke right there in front of me. She looked down at the floor, torn between fear and guilt, between love and loyalty, between me and him. She whispered. But her voice cracked before she could finish. Daniel waited. My daughter looked at me, then looked at him. And then she stood up. My heart dropped. She took one slow step toward her room. Daniel smiled like a wolf who won a fight. Good girl. But before she reached the door, something happened. She suddenly stopped. Her shoulders tensed. Her hand tightened into a fist. Then she turned around slowly, tears falling harder now. And she said something none of us expected. Daniel, I don't think I want to go with you. His smile disappeared instantly. What did you just say? He asked. She stepped backward until she was standing beside me again. I said, I don't want to go with you. Daniel's face changed from confusion to shock to pure dangerous anger. He took one long step forward, like a storm ready to break again. And as he lifted his hand toward my daughter, this time aiming at her, the front door suddenly swung open so hard that it hit the wall. Someone else walked in. Someone who had heard enough noise to rush over. Someone who should not have been there at that moment. But they were. And their presence changed everything in one breath. Because the person who stepped through that door was the last person Daniel wanted to see. The door hit the wall so loudly that Daniel froze mid-step. His raised hand stopped in the air, his face twisted with anger that suddenly turned into surprise, and then fear. Because the person standing in the doorway was Mr. Thompson, our next-door neighbor. A tall, strong, retired soldier with a deep voice that could make even a wild dog sit quietly. He was holding a bag of groceries, but his eyes were locked on Daniel like he already knew something was wrong. He stepped inside slowly, shutting the door behind him. What is going on in this house? He asked, his voice calm but heavy like thunder hiding inside a cloud. Daniel quickly dropped his hand and stepped back. Sir, it's nothing. This is family business. Mr. Thompson raised one eyebrow. Family business? That sounds like a fight. I heard shouting all the way from my house, and when I hear a woman scream, I do not ignore it. My daughter wiped her tears quickly. I could feel her hand shaking on my arm. She had always respected Mr. Thompson. He was like a father figure in the neighborhood, a man everyone trusted. Daniel forced a smile. Sir, you're misunderstanding things. We were just... Quiet, Mr. Thompson said without looking at him. Daniel's mouth shut instantly. Then Mr. Thompson turned to me. Are you all right, Margaret's mother? I nodded slowly, even though my cheek was still throbbing with the pain of the slap. I'm fine, I whispered. But he saw the red mark on my face. His eyes narrowed. Did he do that to you? Daniel jumped in fast. It was an accident, I didn't ask you, Mr. Thompson snapped. His voice echoed through the room. Daniel shut up again. My daughter swallowed hard and spoke softly. He hit my mom. Mr. Thompson turned fully to face Daniel now. The air between them grew tight, like something heavy was pressing down from the ceiling. You hit an old woman. Mr. Thompson asked quietly. Daniel's voice shook a little. It was a mistake. She refused to bless our marriage. That is your excuse for raising your hand. His voice was still calm, and that made it even scarier. Daniel took a small step back. His confidence from earlier was gone, completely. Mr. Thompson stared at him for a long moment, then said coldly, "Leave this house, now." Daniel clenched his jaw. "You can't tell me what to do. This is between me and my fiancée." "She is not your wife yet," Mr. Thompson said. "And if this is how you treat your future mother-in-law, then you have no business being here." Daniel's nostrils flared. "I'm not scared of you." "You should be," Mr. Thompson replied. That made Daniel's eyes widen slightly. Then Mr. Thompson did something none of us expected. He walked to the door, opened it, and pointed outside. "You have 10 seconds to walk out peacefully," he said. "If you don't, I will remove you myself." Daniel looked at Margaret as if begging her to defend him. "Baby, tell him to stop. Tell him we're okay. Tell him I didn't mean it." But she didn't move toward him. She stepped closer to me instead. Then Daniel turned to me. Tell him it was a misunderstanding." I said nothing. For the first time that evening, I truly saw fear in Daniel's eyes. Not the fear of being hurt, but the fear of losing control. He looked around the room, at me, at my daughter, at the red mark on my cheek, and something inside him snapped in the wrong direction. His face hardened again. "Oh, so this is how it is," he hissed. "All of you against me." Mr. Thompson took one step forward. 9 seconds. Daniel lifted his hands in surrender. "Fine, I'll leave. But Margaret, if you walk away from me today, don't expect me to come back." My daughter closed her eyes. She cried silently, but she didn't move toward him. Daniel shook his head in disbelief. "You're choosing her, your mother, after everything I've done for you." She finally spoke, her voice breaking. "Everything you've done has been to control me, not love me." He stared at her like she had stabbed him. Then he forced out a laugh, a cold, bitter laugh. "You think she loves you more than I do? You think she can protect you the way I can?" His eyes flickered toward me. "She's turning you against me. That's what mothers like her do." Mr. Thompson shifted. 8 seconds. Daniel took a deep breath and backed toward the door. But before he stepped outside, he pointed at me with a shaking finger. "You ruined everything," he said, "and I promise you will pay for this." Mr. Thompson immediately moved forward, prepared to push him out, but Daniel stepped away quickly. He left the house, slamming the door so hard that the windows rattled. Silence fell heavy, like the whole world was thinking about what had just happened. My daughter collapsed into a chair and cried harder, covering her face with both hands. Mr. Thompson placed his groceries on the table and knelt beside her gently. "It's all right now," he said softly. "You're safe." But I knew it wasn't over. Daniel's last words kept echoing in my head. "You will pay for this." Threats like that never come empty. Mr. Thompson stood up, walked to me, and touched my shoulder gently. "You need to be careful. That young man, something about him is not right." I nodded. "I know." He looked at me with seriousness. "I will keep an eye on your house for the next few days. If he comes back, call me." I thanked him. He left quietly, after making sure we were all right. When the door closed, the house felt painfully silent. My daughter wiped her tears and whispered, "Mom, I'm so sorry." I hugged her tightly. But something inside me, something deep and cold, had already begun to worry. Because after a man like Daniel is embarrassed, after he is challenged, after he is pushed out, he does not disappear quietly. He comes back. And unfortunately, I did not know he would come back sooner than we expected. Later that night, long after everyone had gone to sleep, I woke up to a soft sound outside the window. A soft sound that should not have been there. A sound like someone stepping on dry leaves. Slowly, quietly, on purpose. I sat up in fear. And when I pulled my curtain aside just a little, My heart nearly stopped, because standing outside my house in the dark was Daniel, watching, not moving, just watching the house like a shadow, waiting for the right moment. Daniel did not break into my house that night, and he did not attack anyone. He only stood there, staring at our window like a man who had lost control of everything he thought he owned. But that moment, seeing him watching us in the dark, was enough to make me understand something important. Danger does not always come with noise. Sometimes it comes with silence. The next morning, I called Mr. Thompson. I told him what I saw. He came over immediately, angry that Daniel had returned at night. He sat with me and my daughter, and together we made a decision that would change everything. We went to the police. At first, my daughter was scared. She said, "Mom, what if he gets even more angry? What if he tries to hurt us?" I held her hand and said, "My child, fear is what gives men like him power. Silence is what feeds their violence. But when we speak up, we take back our strength." We made a report. We told them about the slap, the threats, the pushing, the shouting, the controlling behavior. The officer listened carefully and took it seriously. My daughter was still shaking as she spoke, but she did not stop. For the first time, she told the whole truth without hiding anything. That was the day Daniel lost control for good. A restraining order was issued. He was warned to stay away from us, not just from the house, but from my daughter's workplace, her friends, and anywhere she visited often. He tried calling her, texting her, begging her, then threatening her again. But this time, she didn't respond. This time, she chose herself. Weeks passed. My daughter started healing slowly. She went for counseling. She cried many nights, not because she wanted Daniel back, but because she could not believe she almost lost herself to a man who pretended to love her. I stayed by her side through it all. And then one morning, she looked at me with a smile, a real smile, a peaceful one, and said something I had been praying to hear. "Mom, thank you for not giving your blessing." I hugged her tightly. I would rather have you angry at me and alive than quiet and suffering in a marriage built on fear. She leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "I understand now." Months passed. Daniel moved far away after the police warned him multiple times. He lost interest when he realized he could no longer control her. Men like him only stay when they are winning. When they lose power, they disappear. My daughter started a new job. She made new friends. Her smile returned, not the forced one she wore around Daniel, but the bright, soft smile she had as a child. And one day, she even said, "I want to love again someday, but on my own terms." That was the greatest victory of all. I learned something too, something every mother and every daughter should hear. A blessing is not something you force out of a mother. A relationship is not something you build with fear. And love is never real when one person has to lose themselves to keep the other happy. If I had blessed that marriage, I would have been blessing my daughter's tears, her pain, and maybe even her future suffering. I would have blessed the hand that would later hit her again and again. By saying no, I did not break her future. I protected it. And that is the lesson of my story. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is stand firm, even when your child does not understand you, even when they get angry, even when they walk away, even when your no makes you the villain for a moment. Because later, when the truth finally shows itself, that no becomes the reason they survive. Today, Margaret is stronger. She is wiser. She no longer confuses control with love or fear with passion. She knows what real love should look like. And I am grateful I stood my ground. My son-in-law slapped me in front of my daughter because I refused to give my blessing. But that slap became the wake-up call that saved her life. No mother wants to feel pain. But sometimes, pain is the price of protecting the ones you love. And I would take that slap 1,000 times again, if it meant saving my daughter.